Jai Shriman Narayan. Jai Shriman Narayan. Jai Shriman Narayan. I pay my obeisances to my spiritual master, Srimad Jagat Guru Sudarshan Acharya Ji Maharaj. I pay my obeisances to Lord Sri Ramanuj. I pay my obeisances to Mother Lakshmi. I pay my obeisances to Lord Sriman Narayan. I pay my obeisances to the Purva Acharyas. And I pay my obeisances to the 12 Alvars of the Sri Ramanuj Sampradaya. I welcome all of you here locally at the Sri Narayan Dham in Durban, South Africa. I welcome those that's watching this discourse locally, nationally, and internationally. And I welcome those that's going to be watching this discourse when it is posted in the various groups subsequently. I welcome Lord Raam, Mother Sita, and all those that took part in the Ram Leela of Valmiki's Ramayana. This is day 2 of the lockdown in lieu of the coronavirus in South Africa, and this is day 4 of Lord Raam material atmosphere to celebrate the 9 days of Raam Naumi. And it is in these times of adversities that man does a lockdown within himself. It is these adversities that impels man to do an internal lockdown and see his value, the value of his relatives, the value of society, the value of his country, and the value of the world as a whole. Whenever there is a great calamity, tragedy, and suffering, then these are the indicators to man and the conditioned mind of man to turning inwards. And in this inward journey, there is only positive results. And this is why the Lord descends throughout his creation, timeless, so that man can stop his outward, and God puts these calamities on the path of man's greed and desire, and the coronavirus is none other. Lust, jealousy, envy, and all the negative emanations which has corrupted the consciousness of mankind. And if man can successfully lock down these unseen viruses, greed is a dis-ease, is a virus. Lust is a anger, is a virus. Hatred is a virus. Jealousy is a virus. And these unseen, non-biological viruses eat away and modify man's consciousness from divinity to the demonic. And this is the road that man travels away from Lord Raam and into the lap of these reasons that we celebrate these great functions of Raam Naumi, Krishna Janmashtami, Navratri, and in these functions we try to teach mankind the message of the Supreme Lord. And on this, the fourth day of the Sri Raam Naumi's festival, I would like to bring in three characters. Two characters are in Valmiki's Ramayana, and the other character is the compiler of all Vedic knowledge. And I want to do a small background for man to understand that God does not choose the perfect or so-called perfect living entities to promulgate and propagate His message. And we will start with the compiler of the Vedas, Vaipanya Krishna. His parents, his father was a sage and his mother was a daughter of a fisherman. This was not a perfect Brahmin family. He was not born from a perfect Brahmin family. Ratnakar, who authored the Ramayana and became known as Valmiki, he was not the perfect man. He robbed, he stole, he cheated, he hunted to feed his family. He was not born from a perfect Brahmin family, and he was not born perfect. And then we go to Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra, Brahmin, he was a Kshatriya king. He had anger and arrogance. He was not a perfect sage. And God chose imperfect people to teach His perfections. God chooses timelessly imperfect living entities to teach God's perfections and God's perfect and absolute regulative principles. Vishwamitra, before being called Vishwamitra, was a king called Kaushika. And he wanted the cow or the Gomata of Vishishtadvaita Muni, because this Gomata could perform any function as required by Vasistha. This cow was a wish-fulfilling cow. And Vishwamitra desired this cow. And when he was refused this cow by Vasistha Muni, his army attacked Vasistha Muni. And Vasistha Muni asked the cow to counterattack, and the cow produced an army that countered the army of Vishwamitra. And this inspired Vishwamitra to become exactly like Vishishtadvaita. So he went into various austerities and penances to become a Brahma Rishi, like Vishishtadvaita. And after years and years and years of austerities and penances, he became a Raja Rishi. And he was not happy being a Raja Rishi. He wanted to become a Brahma Rishi. And he continued his austerities and penances to such a state that Lord Indra sent Menaka to test his lust. And Vishwamitra failed, and he was entrapped in the lust of Menaka. And after many, 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 many years, he realized it was a trap, and he went back into his austerities and penances. And Rama and the Devis and Devtas gave him the title Brahma Rishi, and it was that when he was called Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra means the friend of all. Vishwamitra means the friend of all. So Vishwamitra did not come from an ideal background. He was not born as a Brahmin. He was not born in absolute purity. He was a Kshatriya, he was a king. He displayed anger, he displayed arrogance. He could get easily angry, and he could also get easily very compassionate. And these were his weaknesses. Notwithstanding these weaknesses, Vishwamitra found the Gayatri mantra. It was Vishwamitra that found the Gayatri mantra, that is a very, very important mantra in Sanatana Dharma, and it is found within the suktas of the Rig Veda. Vishwamitra also is found in 3 of the suktas of the Rig Veda. One of the ancient sages whose revelations are found in the Rig Veda. So for those that's looking for a perfect guru, and those who want to follow a perfect guru from birth, they are in the wrong universe, because God Himself chose imperfect personalities, and through their surrender to Him, He made them perfect. Through their surrender to Him, made them perfect. Because in this Kali Yuga, 99.99% of humans are imperfect. And it is for this reason that God chose personalities who are imperfect, and through their surrender to Him, He perfected them so that the rest of mankind can follow suit. So wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever your state is, it does not matter. All you have to do is surrender to God. And it is for this reason that God chose imperfect personalities that can propagate His perfections, so that the fall of these personalities in their own dimensions are not perfect themselves, and they will find it comforting that in their imperfection there is a ray of hope of perfection. Then we have the brothers of Lord Raam. When KK was influenced by Manthara with absolute demonic instructions, you have an example of the three Gunas coming into play. Initially, KK treated Lord Raam as her own son. And if you look at Satagun, in Satagun, man is selfless. And if you can love somebody else's child as good as your own child, then that is selflessness. And then Manthara injected in her idea, in her mind, and planted the seed of desire for a son, and turned her from a selfless human in Satagun into a selfish human in Rajagun. And her mind was impelled from purity in Satagun to passion in Rajagun. And in Rajagun, her passion and her desire was so great that her son became king, that she fell into Tamagun. And in Tamagun, King Dasrath lost his life. Lord Raam lost his kingship, and her own son, Bharat, was tormented and tortured internally, emotionally, and mentally. So you can see that if you allow yourself, association of the demonic, then the attribute of a demonic person is greed, anger, hatred, lust, envy. And these attributes manifest itself in your mind, and unwittingly or unknowingly your character can change from an absolute pure person to an absolutely impure person. And this is one of the lessons in the Ramayana. This is one of the great lessons in the Ramayana. Do not shift your focus. If you are on the path of righteousness, do not shift your focus with greed or desire. And if you examine KK, when this initial proposal was made, her mind was so pure that she could not even conceive the thought behind and the plan behind Manthara. But Manthara continued drilling into her mind this demonic ideology until it infested her and it started replicating like the coronavirus. If the coronavirus enters your cell, it starts to replicate. What does replicate mean? Multiply. One organism of the coronavirus, if it enters your cell, it uses your cell to multiply into many. Similarly, Mantara injected into the pure mind of KK the seed of desire and the seed of greed, the seed of selfishness. And as it started to multiply and as it manifested itself, it destroyed the entire family of Lord Raam, his 3 wives and his 4 children. When all this happened in Lord Bharat's absence, and when King Dasratha died and Lord Bharat was called or summoned to come to Ayodhya and do his father's last rites and perform his father's last rites and also take care of a kingdom that had no king, Lord Raam and Lord Lakshman were already in the forest. And Bharat and Shatrughan, when they got back, and the minute Bharat heard of his mother's plan, he immediately dislodged his mother from his mind. Without a second thought, he was upset with his mother for conniving such a demonic plan. He refused to be king. He refused to be king. Today, tell me, which son would refuse to take over? There's no more kingdoms, but these kingdoms represent businesses, power, societal power, political power. Tell me which son, if one son is dislodged, which son will refuse to take the place of the dislodged son? Is it possible today in Kali? Is it possible today in Kali? It's not possible. But look at the purity of Bharat. He went and found Lord Raam deep in the forest. He was humiliated, for there were people that thought that he was part of this plan. Even Lakshman, his own brother, thought he was part of the plan. And when they saw the army of Bharat coming through, they were worried that after he has taken the kingdom, why is he in the forest attacking? And in my discourse yesterday, I stated that these are the 4 manifestations of God. And God is all knowing the time. Yet, they all went into character, and in character, they showed their misunderstanding, they showed their fear, and they showed their confusion. God himself showed his confusion. God himself misunderstood the reason for Bharat's meeting him in the forest, because God had got into character. And when you get into character, you must live into the character that you are presently in. And Bharat convinced him that he will not rule the kingdom. And once again, the importance of a guru, the importance of spiritual masters, saints and sages in the ruling of a country. Is absolutely necessary. And here the Guru said Vasishtha came up with the perfect plan. He said, go back to Ayodhya and rule not as a king, but as his deputy. And it was this decision that Bharat could take. And Bharat asked Lord Raam to slip into a pair of wooden sandals like Guruji's. And he said, I will worship these sandals for the next 14 years until you come back and take your throne. I will worship these sandals for 14 years until you come back and become king of your kingdom. And there is a huge lesson just in this small example. There is a huge lesson in this small example. This is God's kingdom. The material universe is God's kingdom. Nobody can replace God's kingdom. Even when God is not in his kingdom, he cannot be replaced by his own manifestation. How can he be replaced by any human? How can God be replaced in his own creation if he can be replaced by his own manifestation? How can he be replaced by any living entity in his creation? And this is the reason, since time immemorial, gurus have been teaching and breaking their head teaching, and I'm also breaking my head teaching currently. You are not in control of whatever is happening today. You never was in control of whatever happened in all your zillions of lifetime. You are not in control today, and you will never be in control tomorrow. There are only two controls that controls your life. If you surrender to God, then you are controlled directly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sriman Narayan, who sits on your body, which is a machine, and he drives it in 2 dimensions. When you surrender to him, then he personally drives it through your surrender. And if you do not surrender to it, then he still personally drives you, but through your karma or destiny. God is always a driver. God is always the driver. He drives you every day. He can drive you when you have surrendered to him He can drive you where He pleases. If you have not surrendered to Him, then He drives you where you pleased in your previous lifetime. Who is the greater pleaser between you and God? Chris? Who is better, you or God? God is better. So you rather let God please Himself by driving you in the material atmosphere, then let God please you by driving you in the material atmosphere. And people are finding this very, very difficult to practice. Yet it is so simple. And Lord Raam came down to teach mankind through his 4 manifestations. All his manifestations surrendered to him. Lakshman fully surrendered to Lord Raam. Bharat fully surrendered to Lord Raam. Chatraghun fully surrendered to Lord Raam. These are his equal manifestations. Then who are we living entities to have our own way when his own manifestations are in total surrender? And this is the great lesson of the Ramayana. Lord Raam himself, being the Lord himself, being the Creator himself, took all his instructions from his 2 preceptors, his 2 gurus. The first guru was Vishwamitra. He took all the weaponry potency from Vishwamitra, and he took all his spiritual teachings from Vishishtadvaita. And if Lord Raam, in every aspect of his life, touched and washed the feet of his Guru, then this means that for man to attain strength and spirituality, love and compassion, equanimity, purity, truthfulness, then man has to follow Lord Raam's example and follow a bona fide spiritual master, follow a bona fide guru, surrender to the guru, take counsel from the guru, and live within the parameters of the teachings of the guru. And this is one of the primary, the foremost teachings of the Ramayana. Jai Shri Ram.